Yeah. Exactly.
I'll do anything you say. What do you want from me, Hank?
Pass the salt.
Its price, $3,553.80.
This show was built on cheers, bright lights, and the thrill of guessing prices.
Suddenly, one day, something happened behind the cameras. Something that was never supposed to happen, and it changed everything.
But one day, something went wrong. A single moment on stage froze an entire studio. No laughter, no applause, just silence, and a whispered sentence that changed everything. What unfolded behind those cameras wasn't just a mistake. It nearly dismantled a beloved American ritual. A wheel, a chip, a scream, and then darkness. For decades, secrets were buried beneath confetti and catchphrases, but some stories refused to stay hidden forever. What really happened behind the curtains of The Price is Right? Let's dive in. The birth of a brilliant idea. It didn't start with cameras or a soundstage. It started with a street. In 1956, Bob Stewart was working at WRCA-TV in New York City. One afternoon during lunch, he walked along 50th Street and saw something simple but electric, an auction happening right on the sidewalk. People shouting prices, reacting fast, trying to outbid each other. There were no prizes, no special effects, just raw excitement. Stewart didn't keep walking. He stood there, watching. And in that moment, a seed was planted. What if there were a game show like this, not based on trivia or talent, just everyday people trying to guess what something was worth? He called the idea the auctioneer. Stewart wasn't new to the business. He had already worked at WNEW and NBC, so when he later crossed paths with Monty Hall, who would go on to become a game show legend, it was more than chance. Hall introduced him to Goodson Todman Productions. They listened to Stewart's pitch and didn't dismiss it. What followed was a leap of faith, a risky green light, and a pilot episode with host Bill Cullen that almost fell apart on day one. But the spark had been lit, and it wouldn't go out. Not then. Not for decades. Chaos before the cameras rolled. From the outside, it looked like momentum. NBC had already agreed to buy The Price is Right before the pilot was even finished. Back then, it wasn't unusual for networks to take chances on shows based on reputation alone. But what happened during that first taping nearly made them regret it. The set was ready. Bill Cullen, the chosen host, was in position. But the moment things went live, small errors turned into big problems. At one point, Cullen accidentally walked straight into a wall, and a stagehand had missed his cue. The pacing felt awkward, the energy wasn't clicking, and most of all, it didn't look like the surefire hit NBC had been expecting. Executives panicked. They tried to pull out of the deal, offering money just to walk away. That's how uncertain they were. But Bob Stewart and producer Bill Todman weren't budging. They believed in the concept. The pilot may have been messy, but the core idea was still solid. A game based on prices was different, fresh, and, most importantly, relatable. They pushed back against the cancellation, forced NBC to honor its commitment. It was a bold move, and it paid off. Because once the rough edges were smoothed, the show started to breathe. Viewers tuned in. They liked what they saw. It didn't need to be perfect. It just needed to feel real. And that's exactly what it became. Surviving scandal in a broken era. By the late 1950s, American game shows were crumbling under the weight of their own lies. One scandal after another came pouring out. Contestants on popular quiz shows were being fed answers. Some were coached on how to react. Others were told when to win and when to lose. It all came crashing down in 1958 when a Dotto contestant discovered a forgotten notebook backstage. Inside were the answers, meant for someone else. That discovery triggered an investigation. Soon, it was revealed that even shows like 21.
So right now, let's meet our first two players as Geritol, America's #1 tonic, presents 21.
Which had made Charles Van Doren a household name, were completely staged. He hadn't earned his victories, he had performed them. The public felt betrayed. The government stepped in. Congressional hearings made it clear. What viewers thought was real had been carefully manipulated. By 1960, most of the big-money quiz shows were gone, sponsors vanished, networks panicked, game shows, once golden, were now radioactive. But one show quietly dodged the collapse. The Price is Right. Its format was too honest to corrupt. There were no right answers to slip under the table. No clever tricks or whispering producers, just regular people guessing prices, live on air. That transparency saved it. As trust in television crumbled, The Price is Right was seen as the exception, the show that hadn't lied. And in a time when Americans felt manipulated and misled, that mattered. It gave the show a rare kind of power. While others were pulled from the air, The Price is Right moved forward, not just as entertainment, but as a symbol of something that still felt genuine. And in that moment of doubt, being real was revolutionary.
Now first, like always, be sure to hit the like button down below. It helps us out tremendously with the reach of this video. Thank you.
A new home and a bar of soap. In 1963, The Price is Right hit a wall. Ratings dipped. Viewers drifted. NBC made the call to cancel it. For most shows, that would have been the end. But not this one. ABC didn't hesitate. They picked up the show and aired a revamped version starting that same year. Some changes were noticeable. Johnny Gilbert replaced the original announcer, and celebrities were brought in to play alongside audience members. But at its core, the game stayed the same. Guess the price. Don't go over. What really kept it alive, though, was the support from its biggest backer, Lever Brothers, now known as Unilever. They weren't just a sponsor, they were smart marketers. Their products weren't just advertised during breaks. They became part of the show itself. Each week, contestants went home with bars of Dove soap, win or lose, bottles of whisk detergent, Handy Andy cleaner, and Imperial margarine popped up constantly. These weren't just prizes. They were brand placements disguised as fun. And it worked. Dove, in particular, grew into a household name. Its image, clean, soft, and gentle, aligned perfectly with the show's friendly tone. People didn't just watch The Price is Right. They brought parts of it into their homes. In a way, the show wasn't just selling prizes. It was selling trust. And during a time when game shows were still rebuilding their reputation, that trust made all the difference. When viewers got too good. By the end of the 1950s, The Price is Right had become more than just a game. It was a ritual. People played along from home, shouted at their TVs, and mailed in their guesses for the home viewer showcase. But then something unexpected happened. Viewers got too good. In 1959, producers introduced a prize package challenge where fans could send in their price guesses by mail. One particular package drew a strange result. 32 people submitted the exact same perfect bid. Not close. Not almost. Perfect. Down to the cent. The show's staff had to dig through sacks of mail, settle ties by telegram and phone, and figure out how to pick a winner without starting a riot. It was chaos. The producers hadn't expected people to be that precise. That moment exposed a flaw. The more popular the show got, the more viewers studied patterns, memorized product prices, and became sharp enough to break the system. It wasn't cheating, but it pushed the limits of what the show could handle. The magic of unpredictability was fading, and slowly, the cracks were starting to show behind the curtain of this well-oiled machine. Reinventing the game in 1972. After a quiet exit in 1965, The Price is Right vanished from television. For 7 years, there were no spinning wheels, no excited bidding, no cheering crowds. But in 1972, CBS brought it back, and this time, it came back louder, bolder, and sharper. The new version dropped the quiz show elements and went all in on pricing games. No trivia, no long questions, just one clear rule. Guess the price, don't go over. It felt cleaner, more focused, and more exciting. The format was tight. 30 minutes, 3 games. That's it. But it worked. It didn't need bells and whistles. It needed ordinary people with a sense of how much things cost. The network brought in Bob Barker, a calm yet charismatic host. Viewers connected with him instantly. The show dropped the word new within a year. It had found its rhythm and its audience. Then came the magic phrase, "Come on down." Those 3 words weren't written to be iconic. They just felt right. But the moment Johnny Olsen shouted them, the room exploded. People leapt from their seats, screamed, danced, and hugged strangers. A simple call turned into a cultural roar. The game was back, and this time, it had a voice. The wheel that changed everything. On December 1st, 1975, The Price is Right doubled its length and transformed itself in the process. The show expanded to a full hour, allowing for more games, more contestants, and one very big idea: the Showcase Showdown. That's when the big wheel rolled in. It was massive. 20 colored segments, a perfect dollar sitting at the top. Contestants stepped up, grabbed the handle, and gave it everything they had. The wheel spun with a heavy, hypnotic rhythm, and as it slowed, the studio held its breath. Land on exactly $1? You got a bonus. Miss it by a penny? Nothing. That single spin captured something primal. Hope, luck, heartbreak. You didn't need skill. You just needed a good pull and a bit of fate. From 1975 to 1978, the bonus for hitting $1 was $1,000. Over time, the prize grew. Extra spins were added, but the tension never changed. Everything about the wheel was carefully designed. The weights, the spacing. It always looked close, always just out of reach. It didn't just add excitement. It became the heartbeat of the show. A spinning symbol of chance, drama, and the perfect kind of suspense. The stage was always bright. The prizes were always exciting. But behind the curtain, The Price is Right lived a different story. One filled with silence, scandal, strategy, and survival. What began as a sidewalk idea grew into a television empire, only to face cracks that nearly shattered it. Some were repaired, others were quietly buried. Yet somehow, the show kept spinning. Maybe that's the real magic. Not the games, not the prizes, but the ability to endure. Decade after decade, it refused to fade. In a world where nothing stays the same, The Price is Right still shows up. Let's keep watching.